Hey everybody, it is midnight, and Malcolm Jamal Warner, as you know, passed away. Sadly, really enjoyed his work on the Cosby Show, and in every performance I had the pleasure of seeing him in on television. Um, and very sad I didn't have the opportunity to meet him or interview him, but he passed away at the young age of 54, which means 54 means you have a long runway to do things that you haven't been able to do yet because you're 54 and you're arguably living half your life. What happened was just very unbelievably sad. Uh, what you've heard tonight has been constant conversation about the Cosby Show and its impact on America. And there was one episode in my life that really details the impact the Cosby Show did have on a very interesting uh, part of American life. That's politics. And in this case, Dianne Feinstein running for governor in 1990, governor of California. I was a volunteer in the campaign in the advance area, working with a number of people still friends to this day and will remember uh, what I'm about to share with you. And what happened, let me set the stage. It was early in the campaign, and there was a big meeting regarding campaign messaging and what resonated with Californians and how the famous mayor of San Francisco once could make her mark in running for governor and win the race for governor of California. And at that time, The Cosby Show was arguably the most popular situation comedy on television. And it was path breaking because black folks like myself, and perhaps you, if you're watching this and you're African American, and remember that far back to 1990 and 1980, uh, 89 and 88, remember that the constant observation, which was true, was you didn't see middle class African Americans represented on television until the Cosby Show. And it had such an enormous sea change, or it caused such an enormous sea change in how America saw itself, that in this meeting I'm talking to you about, a couple of people, initially white, who said we should have uh, Cosby Show actors as part of our campaign, making speeches and stumping for Dianne Feinstein for governor of California. I thought it was a fantastic idea for the reasons that it really spoke to who we were. And it started a debate. Some people in the room, most people in the room thought it was a good idea. But then there was a counter by a gentleman by the name of Lloyd. I'm not going to use his last name. Light skinned, white, black. And Lloyd directed his angry comments at me saying, the Cosby Show shouldn't be involved. They're not black. That's exactly what he said. They're not black. And I was so thrown by the veracity of his statement, by the anger of which he expressed his idea, that I froze. And I was remember thinking right after that, how come I just didn't say something back like, but I just froze because I couldn't believe I was trying to process how someone who is black like me would so angrily take the position that the Cosby Show wasn't black. But he said it in a room full of 52 people, mostly white, but it was as if he was grandstanding to maintain, this is how I saw it, the standard, normal at the time view of African Americans. On television, criminal, bad, everything else. Depictions we know are not true. And what was so wonderful about the Cosby Show is that it said loud and clear that black Americans are just like everybody else. And it did a fantastic job of doing that. And it said, hey, there are some of us who enjoy going to ski, playing tennis, eating at fine restaurants, expecting the front table at the restaurant, like my mom taught me, and so on, right? And hey, Nathan, how you doing? Do you remember the Cosby Show? And so that that Lloyd would just pop off like that, so angrily. I remember to this day he was sitting at the far table. I'm not going to say who he was sitting next to, but and he directed. He had these large horn rimmed glasses, um, and he um, just he didn't say it with a matter of fact view. It was almost like an "I want to fight you" view. Seriously, seriously, that's how he came off. And I didn't approach him after that. He and I really didn't get along anyway because um, he was in kind of a managerial position on the campaign with respect to me, and he seemed to have an issue with me. Um, why I don't know, but he did, and I thought there was some. Well, you get the idea. Okay, I think you get the idea. But the coup de grace moment in his behavior was that was that was that anger over the Cosby Show, and he didn't want pop culture to come into the campaign. He didn't say that as much as he criticized the Cosby Show itself. So I want everyone to remember that we're talking about the Cosby Show now because of the sad, 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 sad thing that happened to Malcolm Jamal Warner, a fine actor in person by all accounts. But also, we're talking about the Cosby Show and its impact on America. But no one is talking about the Cosby Show's impact on how Black America also saw itself, aside from those people who are so happy, like myself, to say, hey, look, this is how we are. There were those of us who are not happy with the presentation because it took away, in their mind, I believe this is where Lloyd came from. Because I remember we did have a little conversation about later, as now that memory comes back to me. And he believed that it wasn't real, in that we have a lot of problems with discrimination, not getting job opportunities, and this presents a view that in his lens was Pollyannic, and was a fantasy, a dream. But the whole purpose of the Cosby Show was to show that it wasn't a dream for a growing number of us, that it was a reality for a growing number of us, and that by having this television program and depicting the black middle class, as I grew up in, a number of people did, that America would really finally understand what it meant to have a society that allowed upward mobility by everybody, and how it was really true that a rising tide does lift all boats. But Lloyd was really afraid that in showing that and emphasizing that in the campaign, that we would be pandering and kowtowing and not paying attention to Black struggle. That was his point of view. So something to think about, folks. I'd like to know what you think about it after I've explained it. Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube and bookmark ZennyReport.com. And God bless and rest Malcolm Jamal Warner.